to Daily News Capsule. Let's go through the newspaper of 12th of July 2023. And on the very first page of the Hindu newspaper, the news has appeared that the Supreme Court has asked the Enforcement Directorate Chief to quit. But at the same time, the Supreme Court has upheld the amendments. Now the highlighted portion in yellow is considered to be important, and therefore it should be highlighted in your copy of the newspaper as well. Now, the Supreme Court has asked the Enforcement Directorate Director Sanjay Kumar Mishra to quit 4 months before his third extension ends in November, even as it upheld the statutory amendments that facilitate the tenure of the Directorate of CBI and ED to be stretched in a piecemeal fashion. Meaning thereby the Supreme Court has on the one hand asked the sitting Enforcement Directorate Chief incumbent in the Enforcement Directorate Director's office, Sanjay Kumar Mishra, to put down his papers, but at the same time has held that the amendments which gave the statutory, you can say, permission to increase or to extend the tenure of the heads of two organizations, that is CBI and ED, those two provisions brought through the amendment are correct. Now the CBI and ED chiefs have fixed tenure of 2 years. Please take a note of this, that CBI chief, the Director Central Bureau of Investigation, and Director Enforcement Directorate, they are having a fixed tenure of 2 years. However, the amendments introduced in 2021 to the CVC Act, Central Vigilance Commission Act, and the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, and the changes that have been made in the rules related to these two acts, had provided a latitude to the government to extend the tenures of the sitting heads of these two organizations. The changes that have been brought about had provided the government with the latitude that they can extend the tenure by providing to the sitting directors of these two organizations 3 annual extensions. Now, by upholding the 2021 amendment, the court has disagreed with the submissions that have been earlier made by K.V. Vishwanathan, who at that point of time was appointed as amicus curiae by the Supreme Court. Now again, amicus curiae, this is a Latin phrase which means friend of the court. Now, to assess the situation, the Supreme Court then had appointed K.V. Vishwanathan, who was a senior advocate then, as the friend of the court, as an amicus curiae, to look into the matter and report back to the Supreme Court. But as it has been transpired that senior advocate K.V. Vishwanathan is now a sitting judge in the Supreme Court. Now then, amicus curiae K.V. Vishwanathan has said that the amendments that have been brought about in 2021 should be struck down, and the rationale, the logic given by Mr. Vishwanathan was that the central government could use the prospects of service extension as a carrot and stick policy to ensure that the CBI and ED directors work according to its wishes. He had contended that a director would always succumb to the pressure of the government so as to ensure that he gets a further extension, meaning thereby then K.V. Vishwanathan, who was then the senior advocate and was appointed as amicus curiae, was of the view that giving the powers to the central government to grant extensions to the heads of CBI and ED would be used by the government in their favor, because they will always dangle the carrot of extension so that the CBI and ED directors work according to the wishes of the government. Now, this was the views of the amicus curiae then. Now, please note that this news is not like it has not finished. It is still continuing, and it would be again visible. A portion of the news would be visible on page 10. So let's straight away go to page 10 and let's continue with it, and then we'll be reverting back to the other important news. Coming to page 10. Yes, it is over here. Now it is a continuation from page 1. again, Supreme Court asks Enforcement Directorate Chief to quit but backs the amendment. Now, Justice Gawai, who had authored the judgment, has given the reason that the extension were not given at the sweet will of the government. Now, this was contended by K.V. Vishwanathan that the central government may use that policy of giving extensions as a carrot and stick policy, but Justice Gawai, who has authored the judgment, is digressing from this view and has said that it is not based on the sweet will of the government. Instead, the 2021 amendment required a high-level committee's recommendation for extension of service. Now, a 5-member panel comprising of the CVC Commissioner, Central Vigilance Commissioner, and the remaining 2 Vigilance Commissioners had to recommend if the ED Director was worthy of an extension in the service. Please take a note that when it comes to the CBI Director, then the high-level committee is comprising of the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition, and the CJI, that is Chief Justice of India. So this is an important piece of information from page 1. Now, coming back to the other pieces of information that were in the intervening pages, so let's go back and scroll up to page number 2, I would say. So this was page number 1. Now, in the page number 1 itself, again there is this news about GST Council, the meeting of GST Council, the 50th meeting of GST Council, which concluded on Tuesday. Now, the headline says that GST Council to impose 20% tax on online gaming firms. Now, the online gaming industry, which is a budding industry, which is coming up, which is growing. And the GST Council imposes a 28% GST on such firms. Now, let's see what is the news saying. The Goods and Service Tax Council, as at its 50th meeting on Tuesday, reduced or clarified the tax rates on some items ranging from uncooked or unfried snacks, pellets to special utility vehicles, exempted imported drugs to treat cancer and rare diseases, and brought an end to a year-long debate on tax treatment on online gaming, casinos, and horse racing. So, on one hand, in the 50th meeting of the GST Council, certain exemptions were made, certain clarifications were provided. The most important exemption being that imported drugs related to the treatment of cancer and other rare diseases, they have been exempted from the ambit of GST. But then again, online gaming, casino business, and horse racing, these all things have been brought under the ambit of GST, and the percentage of, or the rate of GST would be 28%. Now, whether these activities, these online gaming, casino, or horse racing, whether they involve skill or chance or both or neither, bets and wagers made on all 3 activities will attract 28% levy, and the GST laws will be amended to include online gaming. This was the statement made by the Finance Minister. Now, with respect to the increase in the number of cases related to GST, the legal aspect, the GST Council examined the state's proposal, the proposal that was emanating from the states with respect to the setting up of 50 benches of GST appellate tribunals in the country. Now, the government has given an assurance that the statutory bodies to resolve mounting GST disputes shall become operational within 4 to 6 months, with benches coming up in the state capitals and places where the high courts have benches. Likewise, the council has clarified the appointment and service conditions of tribunal members and the president. Now, again, this news is continuing on page 10. A bit of information is there as well. So again, we have to scroll down to page number 10 to finally conclude this news. So coming to page 10. Coming to page 10, and the size has reduced a bit. coming to now, this is the remainder of the news. Now, the appointment and service conditions of the members of the GST appellate tribunal would be applicable from August 1, the 1st of August 2023. Likewise, there has been a discussion and debate with respect to the idea of GST and GST network, the data that is collected under GST network, which was being shared, which is to be shared with agencies like ED. Now, in the political circles, this has created big debate, but then again, clarification was provided by the secretary to the ministry in one of the departments of the ministry, and he has said that dispelling doubts that GST is now going to share information about private businesses with the other law enforcement agencies. The concerned secretary had said that ED will neither be receiving nor providing information. So a clarification also has been provided. But then again, this aspect of the news is still a developing story, and as and when it develops, more will be coming your way. Going back to the starting of the newspaper, and let's try to analyze the other important news. There are news related to flooding in Delhi, and then there is this news related to the Article 370 revocation petition that would be heard by the Supreme Court in the coming days and months. Now again, this is again, as I said earlier, certain stories are developing stories. So as and when something concrete happens, that would be more important to see. As of now, let's try to focus upon the other pieces of information, and straight away coming to the editorial page. Now in the editorial page, this editorial, that is greenwashing. Now this is related to the Forest Conservation Amendment Bill 2023, which is being deliberated upon by the Joint Committee of Parliament, and certain important contentions has been raised in this regard, and the highlighted portions of the article provides the information in this regard. So let's go through the editorial. The Forest Conservation Amendment Bill 2023, that is being deliberated upon by the Joint Committee of Parliament, is a contentious piece of legislation that signals the complex challenges involved in balancing industrial development and conservation of forests. The Forest Conservation Act 1980, the parent act, now this was originally meant for notified forests, but in a landmark judgment of the Supreme Court, and the case law has been cited, the case has been given, T.N. Godavarman Tirumulpad case, the judgment came in 1996, broadened the scope of such protection to even those forests which have not officially been classified. So meaning thereby the original intent of Forest Conservation Act 1980 was to provide protection to forests which have been notified by the government as forests, and such forests were simply called as the notified forests. But through the judgment in this case, that is T.N. Godavarman versus T.N. Godavarman Tirumulpad case of 1996, the scope of this act has been widened to include such forests which have not been classified as notified forests. Now the remainder of the paragraph provides information about the percentage cover of forests in India, and it says that forest cover has seen only marginal increase, as a biennial report of Forest Survey of India illustrates. Growth in forest cover inside officially recorded forests is stagnant or at best incremental. It is tree cover in orchards, plantations and village homesteads that has been on the rise and supplementing India's claim that 24% of its area is under forest and tree cover. Now, as of now, if a question is asked that how much percentage of area is under forest cover or tree cover, it would be 24%. But the editorial states that essentially the forest cover has not increased, but the rise in percentage figures is because of the tree cover which is under orchards, plantations, and village homesteads. Now, what are the policy guidelines in this regard? The policy guidelines are that India has given itself a target of achieving 33% of the area under forests. So India is committed to increasing this number. This 24%, but 24 percentage figure has to be increased to 33%. Increasing this number to 33% and adding a carbon sink of 2.5 billion to 3 billion tons of CO2 by 2030. Now, this is as a part of its international climate commitments. Moving further, now this portion again is important. Now the amendment, now this portion gives the information about the amendment. The new amendment to the Forest Act gives such incentives by clearly defining the limits of 1996 judgment, meaning thereby this amendment is in a way trying to circumvent the judgment that had come in the year 1996. Now only land recorded as forest in any government record on or after 1980 would invoke the provisions of the Act. Now, this is the change that has been brought about. So only the land recorded as Forest Conservation Act would be applicable on only those lands which are recorded as forest in the governmental records, and that too on or after 1980. Forest land authorized by the state for non-forestry purposes between 1980 and 1996 would not invoke the provisions of the Act. The amendment effectively means that states can no longer classify unclassified forest land or patches of trees with forest-like characteristics as forest land. The amendment also allows forest land up to 100 kilometers near India's international borders to be appropriated without central approval for strategic and security purposes, meaning thereby if that area is a border area, then 100 kilometers of forest land could be appropriated and no central approval would be required if the reasons provided are that it is for strategic and security purposes. Now, the primary criticism is that these amendments do not really contribute to regenerating natural forces, but rather incentivize afforestation for commercial ends. So, this much is the important information with respect to this editorial. Moving further to the next piece of news, and this is in this page, that is text and context, and here it is related to a case where the patent of PepsiCo, the international company PepsiCo, has been revoked by Delhi High Court. Now, what has been the situation so far? What is the story behind it? Now, in the month of July, 5th of July, Delhi High Court had held that there was no merit in the appeal filed by the PepsiCo over the patent rights for its unique potato variety. Now, this appeal was against an order passed by the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Authority, revoking PepsiCo's registration vis-a-vis the unique potato variety developed by it. Now, what is this? What is the relevance of this unique potato variety? The potato variety that is being talked about over here is related to is used. That potato basically is used in the manufacturing of the potato chips, the Lay's potato chips that is available in the markets. Now, a very specific variety is used by the company in making those potato chips, and the case is revolving around that specific kind of or specific variety of potato. Now, as the article provides the information that the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmer Rights Act had revoked PepsiCo's registration with respect to its potato plant variety FL2027. used in Lay's chips on the grounds provided under section 34. Now this is important, that under this act, under the concerned act, this Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Rights Act, under this act, section 34, under the provisions of this section, on certain grounds, patent or the registration could be revoked. Now, Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Rights Act came in the year 2001. So FL2027 is a chipping potato, meaning thereby it is used in the as a raw material in the manufacturing of potato chips, marketed by the Lay's company, PepsiCo subsidiary, you can say, Lay's company. And what are the qualities? The variety, it is a variety with very low external defects, high dry matter, high solid content, and stable sugars, all of which make that potato highly suitable for the manufacturing of chips. Now this portion which is highlighted in the red is important factual information. Now according to the appellants, that is PepsiCo, this variety FL2027 was developed by Robert W. Hoops, now American citizen obviously, a plant breeder and a former employee of Frito-Lay's Agricultural Research, which is a division of PepsiCo Incorporated. Now, a certificate of registration for FL2027 was granted to PepsiCo India on 1st of February 2016, conferring it an exclusionary rights to market, sell, import, export, or distribute FL2027 for a period of 6 years. Now, this is the backdrop of the entire case. Now this paragraph, what is Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Rights Act, it provides information that what is this act all about. It's a simple read, you can go through it, hardly 2 paragraphs. Now coming to the more important portion, that what are the provisions under section 34. Now according to section 34 of Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Rights Act, the protection granted to a breeder may be revoked by the authority on the following grounds: that the grant of registration certificate is based on incorrect information furnished by the appellant. Now this is furnished by the applicant, I'm sorry, this is one of the grounds. The other grounds are that the registration certificate was granted to an ineligible person when the breeder does not provide the registrar with required documents, meaning thereby the documentation is incomplete, and still the protection was granted, then also protection can be revoked. A failure to provide an alternative denomination for variety registration in case the earlier variety provided is not permissible for registration, meaning thereby the nomenclature aspect, the name of the variety which is being talked about. A failure of the breeder to provide the required seeds for compulsory license. Failure to comply with the acts, rules, regulations, directions issued by the authority, and if the grant of registration certificate is against public interest. So these are the various grounds on which revocation can be done. These are the reasons on which revocation can be done under section 34. Now, why did the court reject the appeal? What was the reason for the courts to reject the appeal? Now, in relation to section 34A, incorrect information furnished, it was discovered while the case was progressing that it was discovered that PepsiCo has sought the registration of FL2027 variety as a new variant instead of an extant variant in its application dated February 16, 2012. Now, new variety, the two terms are coming, new variety and extant variety. New variety according to the act means that variety which is having an element of novelty, an element of newness, whereas extant variety is that variety which is being used extensively, or the information about that variety is already known to the farmers. So it is on this ground basically that when the application was made, it said that FL2027 is a new variant, it is a new variety, whereas it was already being used by the farmers. This was the primary bone of contention which led to the rejection of appeal. Now moving further, despite furnishing the date of its commercialization in India to be December 17, 2029, meaning thereby commercialization happened at an earlier date, roughly 3 years back, but the application was dated February 16, 2012. However, to be registered as a new variant, an additional requirement of novelty, as I said earlier, in addition to distinctiveness, uniformity and stability must be satisfied 1 year before the date of filing of the application for registration. The court held that FL 2027 could not fulfill the criteria of novelty and was only eligible for registration under extant variety, meaning thereby it was not new as such, because commercialization happened at an earlier date in comparison to the date on which the application was filed, you can say. On this ground, the appeal was rejected by the court. So this was related to FL 2027, the case of PepsiCo, the Frito-Lay's company. And let's move on to the next important piece of news, and that appears on this page. This is page number 12, and here it is about a United Nations Development Program study, which says, as the headline is saying, that 415 million Indians came out of multidimensional poverty in the last 15 years. Now, this is again the highlighted portion, which is the important portion. The latest updates of the Global Multidimensional Poverty Index was released by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Institute at the University of Oxford. It said that 25 countries, including India, successfully have reduced by 1/2 their global MPI, multidimensional poverty index values, within 15 years, showing that rapid progress is attainable. Now, what are the countries? Some of the countries, there are 25 countries, and some of the name of the countries have been included. These countries include Cambodia, China, Congo, Honduras, India, Indonesia, Morocco, Serbia, and Vietnam. Now, in the year 2005-6, about 645 million people were in multidimensional poverty in India, with this number declining to about 370 million by the year 2015-16, and finally by this duration, 2019-21, 1920 and 21, 230 million people were under multidimensional poverty. So what has happened, that a large chunk of population which was previously under multidimensional poverty, which was suffering from multidimensional poverty, has come out from that negative scenario. Moving further to the next piece of information. Now this appears on this the World News, page number 13, and this is with respect to the delivery of long-range missiles to Ukraine. Now, France, the NATO member, has made a delivery of Scalp long-range missiles to Ukraine. Now, this Scalp missile is a air-launched system. It is an air-launched system, and it is developed as a joint venture, you can say, between Britain and France. It is a British-French missile, and the United Kingdom forces, UK forces, the defense forces of UK, call these Scalp missiles as Storm Shadows, and these are the longest range weapon system that have been delivered by the Western countries to Ukraine. So this much is the factual tidbit information that comes to us from this news article, that Scalp long-range cruise missiles have been delivered to Ukraine. Scalp missiles are air-launched. They are British-French missiles, meaning thereby the two countries have combined their efforts to make these missiles, and the British forces call these missiles as Storm Shadows, and these are the longest range weapon system that has been delivered by the Western countries, the NATO member countries, to Ukraine to fight the conflict against Russia. Coming to the next piece of information, and it is on this page, that is page number 14, and this is with respect to MSME pharma units. Now it says that Schedule M to be mandatory for MSME pharma firms soon. Now Indian pharma industry is under scanner, has been under scanner in the recent past. Why? Because many of the drugs, many of the medicines that were exported by India to different countries, specifically in Africa, certain deaths have happened over there because of the level of contamination, you can say, or the substandards drugs that were supplied. So the government of India has taken a note of all these serious issues, and Schedule M has been made mandatory for MSME pharma. Now what is Schedule M? Schedule M is part of Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, and Schedule M deals with good manufacturing practices for pharmaceuticals that should be followed by the pharmaceutical manufacturing units in India. Now this is the good market. Not marketing. Good manufacturing practices that should be followed by the pharmaceutical manufacturers. Now the Union Minister of the concerned department, Union Minister for Fertilizers, Chemicals and Fertilizers, Mansukh Mandavia, has directed regulatory authorities to conduct risk-based inspection and audit of manufacturing plants with a view to ensuring robust quality of pharmaceutical products. He also stated that Schedule M would be made compulsory for MSME pharma sector in a phased manner. Obviously, it will not be in one go; it would be in phased manner. So these were the important pieces of information that appeared in the Hindu newspaper of today. Let's also see that what are the important news that appear today in the Indian Express. So the first newsworthy item that comes in front of us is that L&T, Larsen and Toubro signs a pact with the Spanish firm Navantia to build Navy submarines. Now, as the information has been highlighted, the important pieces of information has been highlighted in the article. L&T said that it has signed a teaming agreement with Spain-based Navantia to participate in the Navy's P-75 India submarine project and will submit a techno-commercial bid for it. Now, what is Navy's project? Navy's project P-75I, I stands for India, requires the Indian bidder to tie up with a foreign collaborator and execute the program for delivery of 6 conventional submarines equipped with air-independent propulsion system. Now, similarly, other organizations have also taken up some actions in this regard. Now, last month, public sector shipyard Maasgau Docks Shipbuilders Limited and Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems signed an agreement to be able to bid for producing the advanced submarines under Project 75 India. Now, P-75I or P-75 India would be the first program to be processed under the ambitious strategic partnership model of acquisition of Defense Ministry. Now, this is the first such program under this strategic partnership model of acquisition that has been initiated by Defense Ministry. As per the agreement, Navantia would carry out the design of P-75I submarines based on its S-80 class of submarines, the first of which was launched in 2021 and is undergoing sea trials prior to its delivery to the Spanish Navy, and the delivery will happen by the end of 2023. Apart from S-80 class, Navantia has also been involved in the design and construction of Scorpion class submarines together with DCNS. Now this is the naval group of France, which have been exported to Chile and Malaysia. Navantia has also been involved in the Scorpion submarine, the Calvary class, built in India. So already this company is having some exposure in the manufacturing and the designing of strategic submarines. Coming on to the next piece of information. Now this is related to art and culture, you can say. Now at G20 meet, a Guinness record has been created with respect to Karnataka's Lumbini craft. Now let me zoom it a bit, and let's see what is this. As part of the third G20 Cultural Working Group meeting that happened in Hampi, a Guinness World Record was created on Monday evening for the largest display of Lumbini items. Now, over 450 women artisans and cultural practitioners from Lumbini, a nomadic community inhabiting Karnataka. So, the important piece of information is that Lumbini is a nomadic community and it hails from Karnataka. They are the inhabitants of Karnataka. They came together to create an embroidered patches with GI tag Sandur Lumbini embroidery, creating 1755 patchwork pieces. Now, the Lumbini embroidery is an intricate form of textile embellishment characterized by colorful threads, mirror works, and stitching patterns. Now, the Lumbini craft tradition involves stitching together small pieces of discarded fabric to create a beautiful fabric. Now, this is a sustainable practice of patchwork which is seen or which is shared by many textile traditions of India as well as abroad. And the embroidery traditions of Lumbini are shared in items of technique and aesthetics with textile traditions across Eastern Europe, West and Central Asia. So again, the important piece of information is that what is Lumbini? Lumbini is a nomadic community. Where it is from Karnataka. And what does this Lumbini craft tradition entails? What does it involves? It involves stitching together small pieces of discarded fabric to create a new beautiful fabric, and it is a sustainable practice of patchwork, you can say. Moving on to the next news, and this is with respect to the Vedanta Foxconn deal, which went in the negative territory. There is this joint rupture has come to a premature end. Now, in the September of last year, the central government has said that Vedanta Foxconn coming together for the manufacturing of semiconductors would be a great thing for India. But then this partnership between the two companies broke down, and the proposed plant, it now would not be coming into picture. Now, what was this reasons for the fallout, or what was the reasons for Foxconn pulling out itself from the partnership? Officially, Foxconn, the company, has given no reasons, but it is understood that the company came out of this deal. Why? Because Vedanta, the other partner, was under severe debt. It was going through a debt crisis, and therefore Foxconn as an organization never wanted to be part of that deal. But then again, keeping aside the business aspects, why chip making is considered is an important thing to be dealt with. The information is over here. India has identified electronic manufacturing as a key sector in the coming years, both to produce goods for the domestic market and for exports. While some manufacturing schemes for smartphones, for example, have taken off, they have taken off in a very splendid manner, and Apple Incorporated, the manufacturers of iPhone, have taken a lead in this regard. But this process is largely centered around assembling, meaning thereby it is just an assembling facility rather than a manufacturing facilities that have come up. Now, building semiconductors in India is crucial for the government's vision to develop a domestic electronics supply chain and eventually reduce imports, especially from China, which remains the #1 destination for such manufacturing. China, although is facing many problems, but then again, it is #1. Still, it is the #1 destination. All electronics items have semiconductor chips in them, as you all know, and as more companies try to diversify their bases from China, India has the opportunity to emerge as a reliable destination, and that is why there is a big thrust from the side of the government to make India the hub for semiconductor chips manufacturing. Moving on to the next piece of information. Now, it is a bit, you can say, hilarious also, you can call it anything, but then again, This emoji, thumbs up emoji, has created a controversy of some sorts, and this is explained over here. Is thumbs up emoji assent to a legal contract, meaning thereby if somebody sends you a WhatsApp, a legal document of some sort, and you reply to that the sender with emoji, and that is a thumbs up, now will it signify your consent towards the contents of that contract? Now what is the case, and what is the view of the court? Now, a Canadian court has recently ruled that thumbs up emoji sent as a text message can be interpreted as a consent to a contract. Please understand that a contract basically requires two parties. There should be two parties, one who is proposing something and the other which is accepting something. Now, when there is the meeting of minds, when there is genuine consent, then only contract is, you can say, that agreement becomes a contract. Now, the basic question here is that if somebody has proposed something, if somebody has made a proposition in the form of a message and the other party has replied to that message or responded to that message with a emoji of thumbs up, then does it signify that the other party has shown its genuine willingness to the contents of that contract? This is the basic question that is involved over here. Now, this case came in front of a Canadian court, and this paragraph provides, these two paragraphs, second and third paragraph, provides the basic information of the case. The case involved people from two companies, Southwest Terminal Limited and Achter Land and Cattle Limited, who had done business with each other in the past as well. Now, SWT, that is Southwest Terminal Limited, sued Acher, a farming company, for a breach of contract and an alleged failure on their part to deliver 87 tons of flax, which is a variety of a seed. The Acher claimed that they never agreed to the contract in the very first place, but the court ruled in the favor of SWT, asking Acher to pay amount of this much amount, that is $61,442. Now, the buyer from SWT, that is the buyer from SWT, the representative, the person who is from the side of SWT, that is this gentleman, Kent Mickleborough, spoke with the farmer Chris Acher on the phone and texted a picture of a contract to deliver the flax later, asking the farmer to please confirm flax contract in the message. Now, this was the content of the message. Please confirm flax contract in the message. Acher replied to this photo with a thumbs up emoji. However, the goods never reached the other organization, the other party, SWT. Now, according to the court documents, Acher said, meaning thereby what was the view of the other party, that is this Chris Acher. Acher said that I confirm that the thumbs up emoji simply confirmed that I received the flax contract. It was not a confirmation that I agreed with the terms of the flax contract. The full terms and conditions of the flax contract were not sent to me, and I understood that the complete contract would follow by fax or email for me to review and sign. Now, what is the view of the court? The court ruled in favor of Mickleborough, reasoning that there was enough from SWT's side to indicate that an answer to a contract was being demanded from Acher. The court noted that in the past too, Acher had replied to messages about the contract with short informal responses such as looks good, okay, or yup. The parties clearly understood these curt words were meant to be confirmation of the contract and not a mere acknowledgement of the recipient of the contract by Chris. There can be no other logical or creditable explanation because the proof is in the pudding, as the court said. Meaning thereby, or because the two parties have done the business before and they had used informal language in finalizing the contract. So the court relied on the past behavior and came to the conclusion that thumbs up emoji meant that yes, Chris Acher has signed the contract. Now the question is that has such kind of scenarios occurred like in other places as well? Now this technology news website, The Verge, has given an example in this regard that where a similar situation has occurred earlier as well. Now in 2017, a couple in Israel was charged thousands of dollars in fee after a court ruled that their use of emoji to a landlord signaled an intent to rent his apartment. They had sent the landlord a text with emojis of a champagne bottle, a squirrel, and a comet, but later stopped responding to the landlord's text. The emojis used here attested their confirmation, and the court has ruled that these emojis that were sent in the text message, they confirmed their willingness, they confirmed their attestation. Now this is important piece of information that is highlighted over here. Emojis were created by a Japanese artist, Shigitaka Kurita, in 1999, and this emoji development of emoji has been hailed as a new era of hieroglyphic language. So this is related to thumbs up emoji. Again, nobody would have thought that such kind of a situation would have emerged, but then again, this is the reality that these in the era of digital communication, simple thumbs up could cost you much amount of money. But then again, this much is for today. This much is from the Hindu newspaper as well as from the Indian Express. I'll meet you in the next session of Daily News Capsule. Till then, thank you very much.